ask yourself this: what's the one thing that all great works of science fiction have in common? They all tried to see into the future, and they all got it wrong. Orwell's 1984, Huxley's Brave New World, Arthur C. Clarke's 2001, all to some extent or other wrong. And there's another name to add to this list: William Gibson. Gibson actually admits that his vision of cyberspace, the concept he himself invented, will never be realised exactly as he imagined it. So if they got the future wrong, what makes them so great? Well, the answer, of course, is they weren't really writing about the future. They were writing about the present. Idoru, Gibson's latest work, is a case in point. Set in Tokyo sometime in the next millennium, the story concerns a pop star who's entirely virtual, shaped not in wax or even plastic surgery, but in pure information. Through this story, Gibson explores very real and very current issues about the nature of power, the power of the media, the power of celebrity, the power of technology.
I only have to partake of homeopathic doses of celebrity compared to what a rock star or a film star would have to deal with. But even that little bit of it, I think, was useful in writing this book. The digitalization of media will change the nature of celebrity in the future. I wouldn't hazard a guess as to exactly how that would happen. I think the most important difference with the internet and the World Wide Web is that they're not top-down hierarchical structures on the order of broadcast television. So we're dealing with entirely new media here. So it's anyone's guess how it will go.
You make it almost sound like it's something that has no particular centre of control, so in a sense is sort of out of control.
Well, I think it is out of control. The out of control metaphor is increasingly popular in sort of haute computer circles in the United States. They say that's out of control is the way to go if you want artificial intelligence. Out of control is the way to go if you want technologies that evolve more quickly. You just sort of wind them up, let them loose, and see what they do. There is some potential, there is some basis for believing that a really talented and determined 15-year-old can create a website in his bedroom that's a more entertaining environment than something a multinational entertainment conglomerate might come up with. And in fact, that happens rather consistently. The good ones tend to be put together by kids, and the ones put together by major corporations are rather dull and behind the curve. At the same time, it doesn't matter how fast your modem is if you're being shelled by ethnic separatists. I mean, there's a limit. There's a limit to what this sort of technology can do for you personally.
And it depends where you are, in the sense.
It depends where you are. Although there are a number of things that actually do seem to level the playing field. Since the internet is post-geographical, you can put your website up from Idaho and still reach the same audience. It really isn't dependent at all on where you are, except for the clarity and bandwidth of your telephone service.
Who do you think are the primary beneficiaries then of this? Is it ideas people? Is it a slightly reassuring picture of people, well, I don't know, like yourself or creative people gaining the reins of power in the way that they could never do before?
I can't see why it won't become completely ubiquitous. I think that what we're seeing now, we're still in a phase where personal computation is a sort of middle class pastime. But I think, given the market forces driving the computer industry, we'll see it spread through the whole society. I mean, it should fairly soon. I think it would evolve into something that would like something like that would be like television in the extent that it penetrates every level of society.
I mean, in a way, I'm slightly surprised to hear you say that, because one of the things that I associate with you is somebody who famously wrote about, came up with the idea of cyberspace on an old portable Hemingway typewriter, rather than whatever was the state of the art in, well, there wasn't a great deal
Yes,
that was
but
in that.
people do forget that there was no state of the art in personal computing when I wrote Neuromancer, and that's why I was using a typewriter. Neuromancer and the first Macintosh were released in the same year, and someone told me recently in the same month. That's difficult for young people to imagine, I know. But I didn't know anyone who had a personal computer. There were almost none.
I understood that, though, that in a sense what you were talking about is that the power there was the power of the imagination, not the power of the machine.
When I wrote Neuromancer, there was effectively no internet to extrapolate from. I made it up. The cyberspace I made up isn't being used in Neuromancer in the way that we're using the internet today. In Neuromancer, it's all corporate, and a few cybernetic car thieves are skulking through it, attempting to steal tidbits of information. People aren't using it to exchange recipes with their relatives in West Germany. People aren't using it personally, and in my later work, I've had to deal with what the internet has become.
Right.
So I think that accounts for the difference. And what the internet has become is as much a surprise to me as the collapse of the Soviet Union was. Those are, definitely two things I didn't foresee about the future.
Do you feel that we should fear the power of this technology, or should we embrace it? I mean, are there fears that you feel personally about the power it has to change the way?
Well, I think we should respect the power of technology and try to fear it in a rational way, because the chances are, with any given technology, once it's introduced, it's not going to go away. The only reason it ever goes away is if there turns out to be no market for it. And that's a major part of what I do in my work, is try to envision unintended consequences of new technologies. I don't think that technophobia or technophilia are appropriate responses to our situation. I think the only appropriate response is the most profound ambivalence. I think that's what we owe new technologies. We have to teach ourselves to be absolutely ambivalent about them, and mainly we have to teach ourselves to imagine their inadvertent side effects, because the inadvertent side effects are the side effects that tend to get us.